Hello, guys. So I'm here with a short and sweet activity for you all, and it's based on an aspect of design thinking. And this session is called Let's Think Design. And let's get started. I'm your Fassi for today. My name is Sumedha. You can call me Sumi, and I'm the regional manager for business development for this year. And by the end of this activity, it's not like a fully fledged workshop, but it's a small activity that you can do on your own as well as with your elected teams as well. It's going to be really nice. So by the end of this activity, you should be able to understand what design thinking is and be familiar with the flow of design thinking methodology. And also, the main objective of this activity would be to get you into that design thinking mode through a cover story activity to get that imagination going and where you want to see your entity, this organization, in a few years from now on. So yes, design thinking, what is it exactly? So most of you might know design thinking is actually an iterative process in which we seek to understand the user, challenge assumptions, and redefine problems in an attempt to identify alternative strategies and solutions through innovation. And they might not be that apparent before the activity or before applying design thinking. And through this methodology, we basically want to look at things, look at our problems, and identify our problems from a different perspective, which is more empathetic and keeping the user at the center and keeping our vision at the center. So yes, we have 5 phases of design thinking. But before this, like, it's boring text. So let me just share a video with you right away. Give me a second. Amazing.
A long time ago, if humans wanted to move something, we had to carry it. And as time went on, we were able to solve this problem and millions of others. In life, we're always bumping into new problems. And while we have the desire to solve them, it's often hard to find the right solution or even know where to start. That's where design thinking comes in. Design thinking is a process that seeks to solve complex problems by approaching it from the user's perspective. It also aims to turn your ideas into tangible, testable products as quickly as possible. The design thinking framework can be drilled down into 3 distinct phases: immersion, ideation, and implementation. But if we zoom in a little bit, these phases can be broken down into 5 actionable stages that make up the entire design thinking process: empathize, define, ideate, prototype, and test. In the empathize stage, you'll get to know your target audience and paint a clear picture of who the users are, what challenges they face, and what they need. This can be achieved through interviews, user testing, surveys, basically by talking to people and understanding how they think, act, and feel. Based on what you learn, you'll then define your problem statement. When creating your problem statement, focus on the user's needs over the business goals. Keeping it human-centered is the theme here. This problem statement will act as your North Star. If you start to trail off or get lost, just look back to the problem statement to refocus. With our problem statement defined, we're ready to ideate. Keep in mind, innovation is rarely born in isolation. So don't fly solo. Get up from your desk, cubicle, or spaceship, gather some key individuals from other teams, and collaborate. The name of the game is quantity over quality. So think outside of the box and explore new angles. There are many ideation techniques to get you and your team started. A great reference is our Design Thinking Handbook by Eli Woolery. Check it out at designbetter.com. Next stop, prototyping. Prototypes come in all shapes and sizes, from basic paper models to interactive digital mock-ups. The goal is to have something tangible that can be tested on real people. Getting your prototype into the hands of real users will give you great insight on if the solution you provided is valid or if it needs some more work. Based on their feedback, you can make changes and improvements before spending the time and money building the real thing. Although these steps appear to be sequential, keep in mind, design thinking is less linear and more iterative. At each stage, you'll most likely discover new things that require you to go back and repeat a previous step. And there you have it, design thinking in a nutshell. Now get out there and start applying design thinking to your work today. You'll be glad you did. For more information on design thinking, head on over to envisionapp.com/inside design, and we'll see you in the next video.
Wow, it even happens in recordings. Okay, I'm back here just to kind of give you the context of all the 5 stages that you just saw. Just a reminder that, as the narrator also said in the video, that it's not like, yes, there is a sequence, but it doesn't have to necessarily follow that sequence. So it is more an iterative approach. So they don't have to follow any specific order. And they can even occur parallelly, or even you can start from one stage and then make sure like to cover all of them. So yes, one of the things that we're going to cover in this activity, you're not going to be designing a new product in this activity, just an expectation. It's just more like a dreaming process of where you would like your entities to be and what would happen if it reaches it, and then backtracking what would the steps needed, or what would be the things that you need to achieve to actually attain that stage or like reach that stage. Just to give you that context. Yes, so let's get started. Let's make it fun. Welcome to Game Storming. Yes, so this activity is called Cover Story, and it's about pure imagination. Get your thinking hats on, get your imagination hats on, imaginary hats on, and get your dreaming caps on. Yes, and this activity is about to think expansively about the future of Isaac, future of your entity. And just one prerequisite for this activity would be for you to suspend all beliefs and limits that have held you back. This is the Limitless Summit after all. And yes, just this is like a dreaming process. So imagine that you are in a future which is so great, which is so glorious for Isaac in your entity, and for Isaac as an organization as a whole, that Isaac is on the cover of Time magazine. So this is your situation that you are in, and the rule of this activity is basically you must do this while believing that Isaac is already right now on the cover of Time magazine, and now you're going to backtrack that, okay, this happened, that Isaac in, let's say, Malaysia is on the cover of Times Malaysia magazine, or whatever big magazine that you have in your entities, and it's already there. And now you have to think big, that what has Isaac done to be at a stage where today it is on the cover of this magazine. And your task is to design what the media content will look like. So let's say this is the cover of the magazine, and then you have all the brainstorms, all the inputs that you would like to have, and I will explain all of these aspects in a while. So for this, I would really recommend you to also get your team if you are close to, or your current MC team is around you, or if your elected team is already in place, you can also have this activity together with them. It will be really nice. Just to kind of define what all the parts of this image are about. So the cover, it tells a big story of the success of your entity, of the organization. Then you have the headline, big headlines, which would be like, you know, when you see like Times, and then there is the image of the cover image of a person, or like image of the cover image, and then there is this huge text which actually says something dramatic. Yeah, so headlines would convey the substance of the cover story. Then you have the sidebars, which is basically which will basically reveal interesting facets of the cover story, which is like the subtitle or sub information that is going to be there, sub information or sub story, like, you get what I mean. Then you have the quotes, which can be from anyone as long as they're related to the story that has made Isaac reach the cover of this magazine. Then you have Brainstorm, this place is for you to document initial ideas for the cover story. So if it's just you doing this activity at the moment, then you can jot down all of the ideas, all of the inputs that you're having on your own right now, and then once you write them all, then you can filter them out. And if you're doing it with your MCA team, it's going to be even more fun. And then you have the images, which are for supporting the content with illustrations. So images you have here. So you're just going to design your own cover page. As you can see here, it's just an example. So you see like the cover time, we monetize online content. It's basically, and you see like the big headlines, the other guys tried, but reboot was too fast. Reboot revolutionized the rest of the society. And then for the brainstorm, you have all of these inputs that eventually were filtered, and then they made the filtered content on the cover. And then the quotes, they told us it couldn't be done, but they said the same thing about going to the moon. Dramatic quote. And like I said, do not be limited by your resources or your beliefs. And then you have the images, and then you also have the sidebars, the new interweb from Reboot, how they cracked the code, and what would be the things that you would like to be included in this edition of Time magazine. So yes, that is basically it for this activity. This should ideally take you about 30 to 45 minutes. And yes, I would highly recommend you to do it with your teams, if they're elected or if they're currents. You can even do it with your commission. You can even do it together with your tribes if you want to do it on a regional level or on a global level, like talk about ISEC as an organization as a whole. I would highly recommend you to do that as well. So yes, have fun, get wild. And yeah, what does your ISEC look like in the future? This is my question to all of you. Thank you for taking the time to go through this activity and have fun. See ya.